The glass doors of First National Bank reflected the city's morning bustle. Inside, Destiny Williams stood in a line that moved as slow as her heartbeat. She clutched an envelope close to her chest, the one her mother had sealed with trembling pride the night before. "This is it, baby," her mom had said. "Your first deposit as a Harvard student." Destiny's throat tightened at the memory. Harvard. It still felt like a dream she wasn't supposed to touch. She had worked, prayed, studied through nights when the power went out, when the rent came late, when her friends said, "Girls like us don't make it there." But here she was, admitted with a full scholarship and a check that could start her new chapter. The air inside the bank was cold and polished. The man behind the counter was not. His name tag read Thomas Grady, assistant manager. He had salt and pepper hair and the kind of smirk people wear when they think they already know your story. Destiny stepped forward, smiling. "Good morning, sir. I'd like to deposit this check, please." She slid the envelope toward him. He barely looked up. "Account number?" She gave it. He typed it in, then finally tore the envelope open. The sound of tearing paper echoed louder than it should have. He unfolded the check slowly, his eyes scanning the numbers. $45,000. A chuckle slipped out of him before he could stop it. "You're joking." Destiny blinked. "Excuse me." "This check, it's fake, sweetheart." He shook his head with a disbelieving grin. "Harvard University? You're telling me you got into Harvard?" The way he said, "you," didn't just question her. It reduced her. Her brown skin, her thrift store blazer, the backpack she'd worn through high school, all of it stood trial under his gaze. Destiny straightened her shoulders. "Yes, sir. I got in on a full scholarship." "Right." He turned the check over as if proof would jump out from the paper. "And who wrote this? Your boyfriend?" "Your uncle." His co-workers were watching now. The lady at the next window stifled a laugh. "It's real," Destiny said quietly. "That's my tuition and housing stipend from Harvard Scholarship Fund." Grady leaned back in his chair. "Do you have any idea how many people try this trick? Print out a fake check, walk in. Think we won't notice? You could get arrested for fraud, young lady." Her hands began to shake. "I'm not lying." "Sure you're not." He reached for his drawer, pulled out a pair of scissors, and before she could speak, he cut the check in half. The sharp sound sliced through the room. Gasps rippled across the counters. "There," he said with a smirk. "Problem solved." Destiny stared at the torn pieces lying on the counter like her future split open. Her lips trembled, but she refused to cry. "You had no right." "I had every right to protect this bank from scams." His voice rose now, performative, making sure everyone heard. "You're lucky I don't call security." She gathered the shredded halves, her voice low but steady. "Sir, that check was real. And one day, you'll wish you hadn't done that." "Yeah," he sneered. "And who's gonna make me?" "Your mom." Destiny's heart pounded. "Yes," she whispered. "My mom." She turned and walked out, the fragments of her dream clenched in her palm. Outside, the summer sun felt too bright. Cars passed, people laughed, life went on. But inside Destiny something cracked open and burned. She sat on the curb, trying to breathe. The city hummed around her as she stared at the two torn halves of the check. She could still see the faint signature, Harvard Financial Aid Office. She took a photo of the destroyed check and texted her mom. He said it was fake. Minutes later, her phone buzzed. Her mother's reply came fast. "Which bank?" "First National. Main branch." Destiny typed back. No response followed. Just the three dots, typing then gone. 2 hours later, the First National Bank manager received a call from corporate. It wasn't a routine check-in. It was a direct line from the CEO's office. "A client wishes to speak to you. Her name is Regina Williams." The manager frowned. "Williams? As in?" "Yes," said the voice on the line. "The same Regina Williams who developed the cybersecurity software we use in all our systems." Silence. Then, "She's on her way." Meanwhile, Destiny sat at a cafe across the street, stirring her untouched drink. Her mom hadn't called yet. She didn't know what to expect. Comfort, maybe, or anger. But she hadn't imagined what came next. A convoy of black SUVs pulled up in front of the bank. The doors opened, and a tall woman in a charcoal suit stepped out, hair slicked, expression carved from stone. Destiny froze. Her mom looked every bit the CEO. She was composed, commanding, powerful. The same woman who had built her empire from nothing but late nights and broken barriers. But today her eyes burned. Regina walked straight into the bank, heels striking the marble floor like thunder. "Where's Thomas Grady?" she demanded. The staff exchanged nervous glances. "Ma'am, can we help you?" "Yes," Regina said sharply. "You can help me by bringing me the man who destroyed my daughter's Harvard scholarship check." The color drained from the teller's face. "Ma'am, I now." Grady appeared from the back, confused but still smug. "Can I help?" He froze. His smirk faltered as recognition dawned. "You're Regina Williams," she finished for him. "You use my company's software to keep your system safe. It seems you should have installed one to keep arrogance out of your staff." She placed the two torn halves of the check on the counter. "That was a real Harvard-issued scholarship check. You destroyed it." Grady's face turned pale. I didn't know." "You didn't ask," Regina cut in. "You assumed. Because of her skin, her age, her clothes. You saw a stereotype, not a scholar." The bank had fallen silent. Even the customers were still. Regina's voice lowered, cold and steady. "You humiliated my daughter in front of witnesses, accused her of fraud, and destroyed her financial document. If it were anyone else, she might have been arrested, but not today." She turned to the manager, who was trembling now. "Expect a full internal audit. And by the way, your system just failed its cybersecurity renewal. My company no longer licenses to clients who tolerate discrimination." Then she faced Grady. "You're finished here. Effective immediately." She picked up the shredded check and handed it back to Destiny, who had just stepped inside, silent tears in her eyes. "We'll get this reissued," Regina said softly, her voice breaking for the first time. "I'm sorry, baby." Destiny shook her head. "You don't have to be." They walked out together, past the stunned silence, into the bright afternoon light. As they reached the street, Regina glanced at her daughter. "You okay?" Destiny managed a small smile. "I will be. I just didn't want you to see me like that." "Like what?" Regina asked gently. "Strong." She placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "They'll never break you. They'll try, but they'll never win." Destiny looked at the torn paper one last time, then tucked it in her notebook. "Maybe I'll frame it," she said quietly, "to remember where I came from." The city never sleeps, but that afternoon, it felt like it was holding its breath. Regina Williams sat in the back of her black SUV, phone pressed to her ear, eyes fixed on the horizon. Her assistant's voice crackled through the line. "Ma'am, the footage is already circulating. Someone in the bank recorded the entire incident." Regina closed her eyes. Of course they did. She wasn't angry at the camera. She was angry that something like this still had to be caught on one. "Send it to me," she said quietly. Within seconds, the video appeared on her screen, grainy, vertical, but powerful. It showed Destiny standing before the counter, clutching her check, her voice calm but pained. Then came the sound of tearing paper. Even through a phone speaker, it made Regina's jaw tighten. Her driver glanced back in the mirror. "Everything all right, ma'am?" She took a slow breath. "Not yet." By evening, the video was on social media. Captioned, "Bank teller tears up black girl's $45,000 Harvard scholarship check. Thought it was fake." It spread like wildfire, retweeted, reposted, remixed. Some people were outraged. Some were skeptical. And some said what they always said. There must be more to the story. Destiny sat on the living room couch, knees tucked to her chest, watching her face flash across news feeds. She didn't know whether to feel vindicated or violated. Her phone buzzed endlessly, messages from classmates, reporters, even strangers offering support. Her mother sat beside her, laptop open, typing furiously. "Mom," Destiny whispered, "should we have kept it quiet?" Regina looked up. "Quiet is how they get away with it." She hit send on her email, addressed directly to First National Bank headquarters. To whom it may concern. My name is Regina Williams, CEO of RY Tech Systems. Your bank uses my company's encryption software. After today's incident, our licensing agreement is suspended pending investigation into discriminatory practices at your branches. You have 24 hours to respond. The next morning, the storm had a name. #Destiny's Check. News anchors debated it. Talk shows discussed it. The footage had racked up over 5 million views overnight. Comment sections flooded with support and the predictable hate. But amidst the noise, something else began to happen. Students from across the country, Black, Latino, Indigenous, started sharing their own stories. Checks questioned. IDs doubted. Dreams delayed. One caption read, "They looked at me like my scholarship couldn't be real." Another, "They said my name didn't sound like someone who went to Yale." The story had become bigger than destiny. It had become a mirror. By noon, the corporate offices of First National were in panic mode. A conference room full of executives stared at a large screen, showing the trending topic chart. Their PR director, sweating, cleared his throat. "It's bad. Really bad." The CEO, a tall, silver-haired man named Charles Ellison, rubbed his temples. "How bad?" "Ma'am, Mr. Ellison, your bank's stock dropped 3.4% in the last 4 hours. The hashtag is everywhere." Ellison exhaled. "Get the legal team. And someone find Thomas Grady." But Grady was already trending too. His face, captured mid-smirk, had become the emblem of arrogance. His LinkedIn was gone. His office empty. He hadn't shown up to work that morning. "Should we issue an apology?" asked the PR head. Ellison looked at him. "You think an apology fixes the internet?" Then he sighed. "Draft one anyway. And get me Regina Williams on the phone." Regina was in her office when the call came through. "Mr. Ellison, CEO of First National, on line 1. She leaned back, eyes calm, voice even. "Put him through." "Regina," Ellison started, his tone polished but strained. "I wanted to personally apologize for what happened yesterday. It doesn't reflect our values." "Yes," she interrupted. "I'm sure your stock prices reflect them better." He swallowed. "We'd like to make things right. A public apology, reinstatement of the check, a donation perhaps." Regina's silence was ice. When she finally spoke, it was measured and precise. "You tore up my daughter's dignity, Charles. You don't fix that with a press release." He hesitated. "What do you propose, then?" Regina tapped her pen against her desk. "Reform. Excuse me. You have the power to make sure no young black or brown student ever has to prove their legitimacy at one of your counters again. You'll review hiring bias, training, promotion gaps, and client discrimination policy. Publicly." "That's a tall order," he said cautiously. "So is forgiveness." She hung up. That evening, Regina sat in the kitchen, laptop closed. The house smelled like lavender and late-night coffee. Destiny was at the table, sketching something on paper. "What are you drawing?" Regina asked. Destiny smiled faintly. "My dorm room. I want to imagine it before I get there." Regina's chest tightened. "You'll be there soon." "Mom." "Yes. Do you think I handled it right?" Regina studied her daughter's face. The same determined expression she'd seen when Destiny took her first math test, when she made her first science fair model out of scrap. "You handled it with grace," she said softly. "And grace always wins slower, but stronger." Destiny nodded, but her eyes lingered on the laptop screen. "People online are saying I should sue." Regina smiled gently. "We don't sue for validation, baby. We build for change." 3 days later, First National held a press conference. Ellison stood before the cameras, flanked by nervous executives. He read from the teleprompter, his voice steady but hollow. "We deeply regret the unacceptable incident that occurred at one of our branches. The employee responsible is no longer with us. We have contacted the family to make amends and are implementing a diversity and ethics reform program immediately." The reporter's questions flew like arrows. Was the check real? Yes. Was race a factor? He hesitated. "We are investigating that." Has Regina Williams responded to your apology? He looked straight into the cameras. Not yet. Meanwhile, Destiny and her mother watched from home. The TV light flickered across their faces. Not yet, Regina repeated under her breath. Destiny smiled. You're not going to respond, are you? Not to him, Regina said. To the kids watching. That night, she opened her laptop and began to type again. To every young person who's ever been doubted because of how you look, where you're from, or what they think you can't do, remember this. They questioned my daughter's intelligence because they couldn't comprehend her brilliance. They tore up her check because they couldn't imagine her worth. But she's still going to Harvard. And next month, we'll launch the Destiny Fund, scholarships for students who faced prejudice in pursuit of education. Let's turn humiliation into opportunity. She had posted. By morning, the internet had a new hero. Hashtag Destiny Fund was trending across every platform. Celebrities shared it. Teachers, parents, students, all lifting it higher. One comment stood out among the thousands. You can't tear our future in half. Weeks passed. The world moved on, as it always did, but something had shifted. In classrooms and banks and boardrooms, people whispered the name Destiny Williams, with a mix of shame and awe. Harvard itself released a statement welcoming her publicly, calling her an embodiment of resilience and excellence. And one afternoon, as Destiny packed her suitcase for Cambridge, her mom appeared in the doorway, holding an envelope. Mail for you. Destiny opened it carefully. Inside was a reissued check, this time for $90,000, double the original amount. Her eyes widened. Mom. Regina smiled. Harvard's financial aid department said the additional funds came from private donors. They didn't say who. Destiny turned the envelope over and found a small note, unsigned, for the dream they tried to tear apart. A stranger who believes in you. She pressed the note to her chest, tears shining. I'm really going, Mom. Regina nodded, her voice thick. You always were. That night, as the city lights glimmered through the window, Destiny opened her notebook, the one that held the shredded halves of her first check, taped carefully on the last page. She looked at it one last time before closing it for good. Then she whispered to herself, I guess it really was destiny. The early morning light crept across the skyline, soft and golden. A black sedan idled in the driveway of the Williams home, trunk packed with suitcases labeled Harvard University. The air smelled like coffee, paper, and beginnings. Destiny stood by the door, clutching her acceptance packet. Her heart raced with excitement and fear all at once. Her mother appeared behind her, holding 2 travel mugs. One for courage, Regina said, handing her a cup, and one for the road. Destiny laughed softly, eyes misty. You're really letting me go, huh? Regina smiled. I'm not letting you go, baby. I'm watching you soar. They loaded the car together in silence. Every thud of a suitcase felt like a drumbeat marking the end of one life and the start of another. When Destiny slid into the back seat, she looked out at her childhood home, the window she'd studied by, the porch she'd cried on, the door her mother had walked through every night, no matter how hard her day had been. Now she was leaving to build a future that had almost been stolen from her. The driver asked, Boston, right? Regina nodded. Cambridge. The drive stretched long and quiet. Regina stared out the window at the blur of highways and trees. Her mind replayed everything. The bank, the check, the faces, the headlines. And underneath it all, one thought pulsed steady. They tried to break her, but she became the storm. Halfway there, Destiny spoke softly. Mom. Yeah, baby. What made you fight so hard for me that day? Regina smiled faintly. Because someone once tore up my dream too. Destiny turned toward her, surprised. What do you mean? Regina took a deep breath. When I was your age, I applied for a tech internship. I had built my own computer from scraps. But when I handed the recruiter my portfolio, he looked at my name and said, Sweetheart, we don't take charity cases. Then he threw it in the trash. Destiny's eyes widened. You never told me that. I didn't want you growing up angry, Regina said quietly. I wanted you growing up ready. They drove in silence for a moment before Destiny reached across and held her mother's hand. Thank you, she whispered. Regina smiled, eyes glistening. Thank yourself, sweetheart. You didn't just earn Harvard. You earned history. By the time they arrived, the campus was alive with movement. Students dragging suitcases, parents taking photos, laughter echoing between ivy-covered walls. Destiny stepped out of the car and looked up at the red brick towers. It felt like stepping into a dream she'd drawn 100 times in her notebook. Her mother walked beside her, calm and proud, but inside, her chest ached with a mix of joy and goodbye. At the check-in desk, a friendly woman smiled. Welcome to Harvard. Name, Destiny Williams. The woman typed for a moment, then looked up brightly. Ah yes, our scholarship recipient. We're so glad to have you. Destiny smiled shyly. Thank you. As they walked toward her dorm, students glanced her way, some whispering her name. She didn't realize it yet, but they recognized her. They'd seen her story online. One student, a tall girl with braids, stopped her near the steps. Hey, are you the Destiny Williams? Destiny hesitated, unsure how to answer. The girl grinned. You're amazing. What you did, what your mom did, gave a lot of us hope. Destiny blushed. I didn't really do anything. The girl shook her head. You did everything. You showed them we belong here too. As the girl walked off, Destiny turned to her mother. I didn't know people would care this much. Regina smiled softly. The world cares when someone stands tall. That night, Regina stayed in a small hotel near campus. She sat by the window, watching the Charles River shimmer under moonlight. Her laptop was open again, unread messages, interview requests, partnership proposals. But her focus was elsewhere. She opened the Destiny Fund website, its homepage showing dozens of photos of students, faces full of hope, stories full of struggle. In less than a month, donations had surpassed $12 million. Messages poured in. My daughter's check was questioned once. Thank you for this. I'm the first in my family to go to college, and I'm applying with the Destiny Fund. You turned pain into power. Regina wiped a tear she didn't expect. Sometimes justice didn't roar. It whispered through every life it touched. Meanwhile, Destiny sat in her dorm room, surrounded by unpacked boxes and a heart full of gratitude. She taped a single thing above her desk, the framed, torn Harvard check, the one Grady had destroyed. Beneath it, she wrote in pen, "Never let anyone define what's real for you." As she unpacked, her roommate entered, a cheerful girl from New Jersey named Clara. Clara paused when she saw the frame. Is that? Destiny nodded. Yeah. Clara grinned. That's badass. They both laughed, and something inside Destiny finally exhaled. For the first time in months, she felt free. Days turned to weeks. Destiny threw herself into her classes, biology, literature, ethics. She joined the Black Student Union, spoke at orientation, and once, during a freshman seminar, she stood up when the professor asked, "What drives you to be here?" "My mother," she said simply. The class fell silent. She built a company when no one believed she could. She stood up for me when the world tried to tear me down. And she taught me that the greatest form of revenge is success with grace. The room erupted in applause. Back in the city, the bank's reform plan took shape. Ellison followed through, reluctantly at first, but soon with conviction. Bias training, anonymous hiring reviews, partnerships with community colleges, the Destiny Protocol. They called it internally. And for the first time in the bank's 80-year history, they appointed a black woman as regional director. Thomas Grady, meanwhile, vanished from headlines. But one morning, Destiny received a letter at her dorm. No return address, just a short note inside. Miss Williams, I was wrong. You deserve better. I hope you keep proving people like me wrong for the rest of your life. T.G. She stared at it for a long moment, then folded it neatly into her notebook beside the framed check. Forgiveness, she realized, didn't excuse the past. It freed her from it. Months later, winter blanketed Harvard in snow. Destiny walked through the courtyard, bundled in a red scarf, her breath fogging in the cold. She passed a bulletin board plastered with flyers. One of them read, "Apply for the Destiny Fund, changing futures, one dream at a time." Students stopped to read it. Some smiled, others took photos. And Destiny, standing quietly among them, felt something bloom in her chest. Pride not just in surviving, but in transforming pain into purpose. Graduation day arrived 4 years later. The air buzzed with cheers, camera flashes, and the flutter of red robes. Destiny walked across the stage, head high, tears in her eyes. The announcer's voice rang out. Destiny Regina Williams, Bachelor of Science, Biomedical Engineering, cum laude. Regina sat in the audience, hands trembling as she clapped. When Destiny accepted her diploma, she turned toward her mother and lifted it high, the way champions lift trophies. And somewhere deep inside, Regina felt the universe whisper, "You did it." After the ceremony, reporters swarmed them again. "Destiny, how does it feel?" She smiled softly. "It feels like proof that no one can tear your future if you keep your faith in it." One journalist asked, "What's next for you?" Destiny glanced at her mother and grinned. "I'm going to medical school, and I'm expanding the Destiny Fund, because this story isn't just mine anymore." That night, under the glow of city lights, mother and daughter stood by the river. Neither spoke for a long while. Finally, Regina broke the silence. "You remember what I told you the day we left that bank?" Destiny smiled. "Yeah, you said they'll try to break me. And they never will." Regina laughed softly, eyes wet. "You've grown into everything I prayed you'd be." Destiny leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. "I just followed your footsteps, Mom." The river shimmered. The city hummed. And in that quiet, they both understood. Some stories don't end. They echo. They inspire. They change everything that comes after. 2 weeks later, a new plaque was unveiled at Harvard Scholarship Hall. It read, "The Destiny Williams Initiative. For every student whose worth was ever questioned, your destiny is your proof." Beneath it, a quote from Regina Williams. "The check was never the treasure. The dream was." As visitors passed, they'd stop, read, and smile, not just at the story of a girl and her mother, but at what it meant for every dreamer who'd ever been told no. And somewhere in a quiet Boston apartment, Destiny sat at her desk, opening her acceptance letter to Harvard Medical School. She looked at the framed check one last time, faded, torn, but still whole in meaning. Then she whispered with a smile, "Guess what, Mom? We're not done yet."